My wife, Amy, and I have been married for 7 years, together for a total of 10. We met in college back when life felt simple. We were that couple people would call perfect. You know, the ones who finish each other's sentences, can sit in comfortable silence, and somehow still make each other laugh at the dumbest things. But the last year, it's like everything I thought I knew about her, or about us, has been a lie. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Hindsight's 20/20, right? It started small. Amy began working late more often, saying she had meetings or work dinners. I didn't question it at first. She's ambitious, and I knew her career was important to her. But then there were other changes, little things that started adding up. She started going to the gym more, which I thought was a good thing at first. She was getting into better shape, looking amazing, but it felt different. Like she wasn't doing it for herself, or for us. It felt like she was doing it for someone else. She began buying new clothes, dressing sexier, even on the days when she'd supposedly be at work or hanging out with her friends. And the phone? She was glued to it, constantly texting and smiling at messages. But if I asked what was so funny, she'd brush it off with, just Sarah being Sarah. Except I had never met Sarah, or half the other friends she'd suddenly started spending all her time with. I wasn't the paranoid type, but it was hard to ignore when she'd come home, late smelling like perfume that wasn't hers or worse, like cologne. But here's the kicker. Anytime I'd bring it up, she'd flip it around on me. "You're overreacting," she'd say. "You need to trust me. Why are you being so insecure?" And I would back off, thinking maybe I was overreacting. But that gut feeling never went away, that I tried to give her space. I didn't want to be the overbearing husband who starts accusing his wife of cheating just because she's going through some changes. People grow, and I figured maybe this was just a phase. Maybe she needed to do her own thing for a bit. But deep down, that pit in my stomach kept getting heavier. The late-night work dinners, the constant texting, the sudden change in wardrobe, it was all starting to get to me. One Saturday, she told me she was going out for a girls' night. Nothing unusual about that, except she spent hours getting ready. She put on this black dress that, honestly, she hadn't worn in years. It was the kind of dress she used to wear on our special date nights. She looked stunning, but there was this nagging thought in the back of my mind. Why doesn't she dress like that for me anymore? She left around 6 p.m., and I tried not to let it get to me. I told myself it was fine, that I was being paranoid. But by 10, I sent her a quick text. "How's it going?" No response. An hour passed, and still nothing. I called her at 11:30, and it went straight to voicemail. At this point, my mind was racing, thinking of all the worst-case scenarios. It wasn't until 2:30 a.m. that she walked in the door, stumbling slightly, clearly tipsy. Her makeup was smudged, her hair a mess, and she was reeking of alcohol and something else. Something that wasn't her usual perfume. "Sorry, babe," she slurred. Lost track of time. Lost track of time? For 8 hours? I asked her who she was with, and she rattled off the usual names. Sarah, Megan, and a couple of other friends I didn't know. I asked if I could meet them sometime, maybe tag along next time, and she laughed it off, saying, "Oh, Mike, you wouldn't have any fun. We just talk about boring girl stuff." She was lying. I could feel it, but I didn't have any proof. Yet, the next day I couldn't get it out of my head. I tried to shake it off, but every time I looked at Amy, I felt this weird mix of love and suspicion. That night, after she went to bed, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through her phone. I know. It's a shitty move, but I needed to know if I was losing my mind or if there was something real going on. I opened her messages, scrolling through the usual suspects. Her group chats with her friends, work emails, nothing out of the ordinary. And then I saw a conversation with someone named Jake. The texts weren't just friendly. They were intimate. Stuff like, "Last night was amazing, and can't wait to see you again. Same time next week." I felt my stomach drop. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through more messages, flirty texts, details about meeting up at a hotel, and even pictures. Pictures. Sexy ones. Ones that were clearly not meant for me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. This wasn't just some innocent flirtation. This was a full-blown affair. When Amy got out of the shower, I couldn't hold back. I confronted her right there, holding up her phone. "Who the fuck is Jake?" I asked, my voice louder than I intended. Her face turned white, and for a split second, I saw panic in her eyes before she switched to defensive mode. "You went through my phone?" Are you serious, Mike? What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't back down. I pressed harder, demanding answers. At first, she denied it. Said Jake was just a friend, that I was blowing things out of proportion. But I kept pushing, asking why she was sending sexy texts and pictures to some friend. That's when she cracked. She admitted it. She had been cheating on me for months. Hearing her say it out loud was like getting punched in the gut. My wife, someone I'd trusted completely, had been screwing another guy behind my back for months. And not just anyone. Some random guy from her work, someone I'd never even heard of. My mind was racing. Every late night, every girl's night. Every time she told me I was being paranoid, it all made sense now. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare. My world, my marriage, everything I thought I knew was collapsing around me. She sat there, trying to justify it, saying she didn't mean for it to happen, that she just needed attention, and that Jake made her feel alive again. Alive? What about me? What about our life together? Wasn't I enough? She kept saying it didn't mean anything, that it was just sex and not emotional. Like that was supposed to make it better. But it didn't. It made it worse in a way. She had reduced our marriage to something so casual, so meaningless, that she didn't even care about the emotional fallout. It was all about her and what she wanted. I couldn't stay in the house. I grabbed my keys and walked out, leaving her sitting there on the bed, crying. I didn't care. I needed space to think. I drove for hours, no destination in mind, just trying to process everything. The anger came first. How could she do this to me? How could she lie to me for months? But then the sadness hit. I'd lost something. We'd lost something, and there was no getting it back. The next morning, I stayed at my buddy Matt's place. I couldn't go home, couldn't face her. I didn't even tell Matt the full story, just that Amy and I had a fight. He didn't press, but I could tell he knew something big was up. I barely slept, my mind replaying the whole confrontation over and over. What was I supposed to do now? Eventually, I went back home. Amy was sitting at the kitchen table, looking like she hadn't slept either. She was waiting for me. The first thing she said when I walked in was, "We need to talk." I asked her how long it had been going on. She hesitated and then finally admitted it had started 6 months ago. 6 fucking months. I'd been living in the dark for half a year, thinking everything was fine while she was off screwing some other guy. When I asked her why, she gave me the same excuses. She felt neglected. She needed attention. She didn't think I cared about her anymore. She tried to make it about me like it was my fault she cheated. I wasn't around enough. I didn't appreciate her. I didn't make her feel special. All the usual bullshit. But I wasn't having it. I told her straight up, "You made this choice. You could have come to me. You could have talked to me. Instead, you lied." And then she did the most infuriating thing. She started crying again, saying she was sorry and that she never meant to hurt me. Like her crocodile tears were supposed to erase months of deceit. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Was she really sorry? Or was she just sorry she got caught? Over the next few days, I felt like I was on an emotional roller coaster. 1 minute, I was furious, thinking about all the lies and how easily she betrayed me. The next, I was heartbroken, remembering the good times we'd shared and wondering where it all went wrong. Amy tried to patch things up, promising me she'd cut off contact with Jake, swearing that she wanted to work on our marriage. She begged me to go to counseling, to give her another chance. Amy was relentless in trying to win me back. She was suddenly more affectionate than she had been in months, texting me throughout the day, asking how I was doing, if I wanted to go out to dinner, or if we could talk. It felt fake. All of it. Like she was putting on some kind of performance to convince me everything could go back to the way it was. But I couldn't get past the images in my head. Her with Jake, sneaking around behind my back, lying to me every time she walked out the door. Even when she was saying all the right things, I didn't believe her. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and for a second, everything would feel normal. Then it would hit me all over again. My wife cheated on me. She broke something between us, and I wasn't sure it could ever be fixed. I kept thinking back to all the times I'd let her gaslight me, make me feel like I was the crazy one for suspecting something. She'd lied with a straight face, over and over, convincing me that everything was fine while she was screwing some guy from her work. It made me sick. Every time I looked at her, I wanted to scream, but I also felt this deep sadness for what we'd lost. or maybe for what I thought we had. I went back and forth, questioning everything. Part of me wanted to believe her, that maybe we could work through it, maybe we could get past the affair, the lies, and rebuild something. But the other part of me knew that trust was shattered. And without trust, what was left? Eventually, I agreed to try counseling. I didn't want to make any rash decisions, and I figured after 7 years of marriage, we owed it to ourselves to at least try to work things out. Amy was all for it, of course. She saw it as her chance to show me how sorry she was, how committed she was to fixing our relationship. So we went. The counselor was a soft-spoken woman named Dr. Fields, and in the first session, she asked us to explain why we were there. Amy immediately started crying, talking about how she felt disconnected from me, how she made a mistake and wanted to fix things. I could barely look at her. When it was my turn to talk, all I could think about was how none of this would be happening if she had just been honest with me in the first place. We talked about trust, communication, and forgiveness. Dr. Fields asked me if I thought I could ever forgive Amy. I said I didn't know. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to. Amy kept apologizing over and over, but it felt like she was more sorry about getting caught than anything else. And every time we talked about Jake, I could see her getting defensive, like she was still holding something back. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than she was telling me. And I was right. About 3 weeks into counseling, I decided to check Amy's phone again. I know it was probably a mistake, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to know if she was really cutting things off with Jake, if she was being honest this time. And surprise, surprise, she wasn't. I found a hidden app on her phone, one she thought I wouldn't notice. Inside were more messages to Jake. She hadn't ended things with him like she promised. She was still in contact with him, still meeting up with him. They'd been more careful about it, not texting as much, but it was all there in black and white. I felt like an idiot. Here I was trying to work on our marriage, going to therapy, doing everything I could to figure out if there was something worth saving, and she was still lying to my face. This time I wasn't calm. I didn't wait for the right moment or for the next counseling session. I stormed into the house, her phone in hand, and demanded answers. "You're still talking to him," I shouted. "You said it was over, but you're still seeing him." Amy's face went white. She stammered, trying to come up with some excuse, but there was nothing she could say to justify it. "I wasn't," she started, but I cut her off. "Don't lie to me again, Amy. I've had enough. I've given you every chance to come clean, and you keep lying. You're still seeing him, aren't you?" She finally broke down and admitted it. She hadn't cut things off with Jake. She didn't know why. She said she was confused and didn't know what she wanted. That's when I realized she wasn't confused. She was just selfish. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too. She wanted me to stick around as her safety net while she kept seeing this other guy on the side. I told her it was over. I couldn't do this anymore. No more counseling, no more second chances. I was done. After that, I moved out. I couldn't stand being in the same house with her anymore. Every time I saw her, I was reminded of the lies, the betrayal, the fact that she had been playing me for months. I stayed with Matt for a few weeks while I figured out my next steps. Amy begged me not to leave. She said she'd end things with Jake for real this time, that she wanted to fix our marriage. But it was too late. I didn't believe a word she said anymore. She'd had her chance, and she blew it. It hurt, leaving her behind. As angry as I was, as much as I felt betrayed, there was still a part of me that loved her. I kept thinking about the early days of our relationship, back when everything was good. It was hard to reconcile that Amy with the person she had become. But I knew I couldn't stay. Not after everything she'd done. About a week after I moved out, Amy texted me. "We need to talk." At first, I ignored it. I was trying to move on, trying to put some distance between us. But she kept texting, saying it was urgent. Eventually, I gave in and agreed to meet her at a coffee shop. I thought maybe she was going to apologize again, or try to convince me to come back. But what she said next knocked the wind out of me. "I think I might be pregnant." My heart stopped. Pregnant? I didn't know whether to feel terrified, angry, or completely numb. My first question was obvious. "Is it mine?" Amy hesitated. She said she didn't know for sure. She'd been sleeping with both me and Jake during the time it could have happened, so there was no way to know who the father was until she got a paternity test. I couldn't even look at her. Here she was, sitting across from me, telling me she might be carrying another man's child. The same man she'd been cheating on me with for months. I wanted to scream, to cry, to walk away, and never look back. But all I could do was sit there in stunned silence that I told her I needed time to think. I couldn't process what was happening. I left the coffee shop, got in my car, and just drove. No destination, no plan, just driving to clear my head. How was this happening? How had my life spiraled so completely out of control? One minute I was living in ignorant bliss, thinking I had a happy marriage, and now my wife might be pregnant with another man's baby. I called Matt again, needing someone to talk to. He listened as I unloaded everything, from the affair to the pregnancy bombshell. He didn't sugarcoat it. He told me what I needed to hear, even if I didn't want to hear it. You need to walk away, Mike. She's dragging you down. You deserve better. I knew he was right. I couldn't keep letting Amy pull me back into her web of lies. I had to take control of my life again. After a few days of soul-searching, I made my decision. I called Amy and told her we needed to meet one last time. When we sat down, she looked hopeful, like maybe I was going to forgive her and come back. But I wasn't there to reconcile. I'm filing for divorce. I told her, my voice firm. We'll deal with the pregnancy. We'll get a paternity test. But as far as our marriage goes, it's over. She broke down, pleading with me not to leave her, saying she'd end things with Jake for good, that she'd do anything to make it right. But it was too late. She had broken my trust beyond repair, and I wasn't going to keep subjecting myself to her lies and manipulation. I walked out of that meeting with a sense of finality. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right choice. I couldn't live in constant suspicion, wondering if she was being honest or if she was sneaking around behind my back again. After I filed for divorce, I moved into a small apartment of my own. It was weird at first, being alone, starting over, but it also felt freeing in a way. I no longer had to deal with Amy's lies, no longer had to wonder where she was or who she was with. The paternity test came back a few weeks later. The baby wasn't mine. When I found out, I felt this strange mix of relief and sadness. I was glad it wasn't my child, but at the same time, it was a final confirmation that our marriage had been built on lies for a long time. Amy's affair with Jake had gone deeper than I'd ever imagined, but it's been a few months now since the divorce was finalized. I'm still healing, still processing everything that happened, but I'm in a better place. I've learned that trust is everything in a relationship. Without it, there's nothing to build on. Amy tried to reach out a few times after the divorce, but I blocked her. I need to move on, and I can't do that if she's still in my life. If I could offer any advice to someone going through something similar, it's this: trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let anyone gaslight you or make you feel crazy for questioning things. And if someone betrays your trust over and over again, don't stick around hoping they'll change. You deserve better. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I'll never let myself be in a situation like that again. It's been a hell of a journey, but I'm stronger for it.